Ladies and gentlemen, I have the exclusive for you all. The Schumer shutdown crumbles. AOC vanishes altogether, completely gone out of the picture, and a political empire faces its end. Stick with me here, folks, and buckle up because this is a bombshell you won't find anywhere else. A raw, unfiltered dive into the chaos gripping Washington as the Schumer shutdown drags into day 22 of October 2025. The government's frozen, federal workers are bleeding, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer stands alone at the center of the storm, with President Trump, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, and even CNN's Caitlin Collins zeroing in on him. The progressive firebrands like AOC and Bernie Sanders are nowhere to be found, sidelined, silenced, and irrelevant. This is the story of a shutdown strangling America's heroes, a Democratic fracture splitting wide open, and the twilight, the end of Schumer's reign. Breaking news, folks. You're hearing first right here, and I'm digging deep to bring you this information, the latest news. Do me a favor, if you appreciate the work, the videos, let YouTube know. Subscribe to the channel because it helps out a lot. The standoff is brutal, folks. Schumer's holding the government hostage, demanding Republican concessions on Obamacare subsidies before he'll even talk.
Rick Scott here. Another day that we're going to take another vote to try to open up the government. But guess what? This Schumer shutdown is going to continue because Chuck Schumer and the Democrats want to keep our government closed. And that means there's hardworking Americans that are not getting paid. But here's what will surprise you. Chuck Schumer's going to get paid. He's not willing to give up his paycheck. The Democrat senators that are not supporting this, stopping this government shutdown, they're still getting paid. So that's wrong. I've got legislation that says that if we don't pass our budget, we don't get paid. It's common sense.
President Trump's response cuts like a bench-made blade. And he says there will be no meeting until the government reopens.
Today, I'm calling on every Senate Democrat to stop the madness, to let our country get back. In the greatest moment in the history of our country in terms of wealth, in terms of job creation, and in terms of investment coming in, these guys go on strike. It's really a shame. So I'm asking them to be smart. It's not working. They're getting killed in the polls. The public understands what they're doing. They're doing the wrong thing.
And we all know it's the Democrat shutdown and President Trump slamming Senate Democrats for going on strike during what he dubs the greatest moment in our country's history. The economic boom's humming, but Schumer's got the brakes on, leaving federal workers, troops, ICE agents, air traffic controllers, workers without paychecks, and their families are scraping by on fumes. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, cool as a fan on high, lays it bare, but he doesn't mix words, letting Chuck Schumer know, I'm willing to speak. That motherfucker knows my phone number. All right. Maybe not so much like that, but that's how I imagine it in my mind.
Leader Thune, on that front, when was the last time you spoke with Chuck Schumer, and do you believe that the House should come back into session?
I think the House did their work. They passed the bill, and the play, as you all know right now, the action's in the Senate.
And when was the last time you spoke with Senator Schumer?
I talk to Chuck on a somewhat regular basis. We're on the floor all the time. If he wants to talk to me, our offices are right down the hallway from each other. He knows my cell phone number. And if he's got something else to offer up other than this crazy, unserious, unrealistic proposal they have out there, we're prepared to have that conversation. But open up the government first.
Thune tells Caitlin Collins and CNN and other reporters standing outside, I'm willing to speak with Chuck Schumer. He knows my cell phone number.
Senate Republicans, House Republicans, and the President of the United States are all in favor of reopening the federal government. In fact, so much so that we've now all voted 11 times to reopen the federal government. But the longer the federal government stays closed, the more the impacts are being felt. Travel delays, benefit delays, farmers are being impacted, millions of people going without paychecks. That's what this government shutdown, Democrat government shutdown, is bringing to the American people. So we're hopeful that this will be the week when we break out of this and the Democrats come to their senses and decide to open up the government. We're going to give them several opportunities, as you know, to do that. We'll have another vote on the continuing resolution tomorrow, which is sitting at the desk of the Senate, can be sent down here to the White House, signed into law. The government would open up immediately. We're also going to vote on a Ron Johnson resolution that essentially would pay anybody who's currently working. So we'll see how the Democrats react to that, but the truth of the matter is you have a bunch of people here, a united team that believes profoundly that we need to get our government open. And if the Democrats want to talk about subjects unrelated to the government, getting the government open again, we're happy to have those conversations. But we've repeatedly now gone through this, and at some point the Democrats are going to have to say yes for an answer. We want a normal appropriations process. We want to give them an opportunity to sit down and litigate some of the issues they want to talk about, but that can't happen until the government gets opened up again.
And that's quite the subtle jab, a nod to AOC's old pick up the phone rant or my door's open down the hall against Republicans, now flipped on the Democrats' own leader. Thune's office door is open. Schumer just needs to walk down the hall and talk to him, but he won't. The fallout is devastating.
And I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
Soldiers on the front lines go unpaid. ICE agents patrolling borders, no checks in sight. Air traffic controllers guiding planes through storms with heavy eyes from unpaid overtime. Federal employees, accountants, park rangers, inspectors are maxing out their credit cards, hitting food pantries, watching their kids go without Senator Ron Johnson's bill to pay these heroes. Troops, agents, controllers has Republicans united, but the Democrats want more pain. Thune's plea is clear. Hopefully, Democrats will join us. But Schumer's response, fuck you.
Next one.
Leader Schumer, leader's been offering to negotiate on the Affordable Care Act with you if you reopen the government. Why won't you take the deal?
The bottom line is that's no deal. That's a partisan plan that leaves the American people high and dry. And they've asked us for 45 days and 45 days and 45 days. When they say another 45 days, later to them means never. We have to get them to the table and negotiate with us now.
But no, we will not give. All for $1.5 trillion to give to illegals. Schumer's cold shoulder we've had enough of, and the president insists on reopening first, then talking Obamacare cliffs. And John Thune has made it abundantly clear that if the Democrats reopen the government, we can immediately sit down and talk about the Obamacare cliff they've created. Republicans are ready to get to work. We're just waiting for Democrats to take yes for an answer.
Mr. President, 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since Democrats shut down the government. Since Democrats chose to put the demands of far-left activists ahead of serving the American people. And over the last 3 weeks, Mr. President, it's the American people who have borne the consequences of Democrat shutdown. Thousands of flights have been delayed. Nutrition assistance for millions of needy families is in jeopardy. Military families are turning to food banks in unprecedented numbers. The Democrats are apparently willing to prolong the suffering until their far-left base is satisfied. Mr. President, we've given Democrats here in the Senate numerous opportunities to end the shutdown. We've held now 11 votes on a clean, nonpartisan, continuing resolution to end the shutdown and the pain that comes with it. And they said no every time. We give Democrats an opportunity to consider the bipartisan defense appropriations bill, something that I might add passed the Senate Appropriations Committee 26-3 in an overwhelming bipartisan vote. We gave them an opportunity to consider that here on the floor so we can at least protect our national security and pay our troops. Democrats called it unacceptable and a distraction to pay the troops. We even offered to give them a vote on a health care proposal of their own design. if they vote to reopen the government? The answer again was no. Mr. President, I don't know what Democrats are looking for. But if they're looking for Republicans to give in to their hostage-taking, they should think again. I've been very clear since the beginning. On the first day of this shutdown, I said Republicans would be perfectly willing to discuss the issues Democrats are raising, but only after we reopen the government. I said, and I quote, quoting myself here, we're not going to engage in bipartisan discussions while Democrats are holding the federal government hostage to their partisan demands, end quote. And interestingly enough, Mr. President, that's the exact same position the Democrat leader espoused during the 2013 shutdown. He said then, and I quote, as we said 1,000 times, we are happy to discuss how to fund the government, not with a gun to our head. Open up all the government, and then we can have a fruitful discussion. Then we will discuss things, but as has been said over and over, not with a gun to our heads, end quote. That from the Democrat leader back in 2013. He espoused the same position, interestingly enough, again in 2019, noting, and I quote again, we cannot ever hold American workers hostage again, end quote. And yet here he is in 2025, holding American workers and government funding hostage. I guess he's forgotten his own words. Or maybe it's just situational. Like a lot of things. They've just adopted a political position, not a real one. Mr. President, Republicans are ready to sit down with Democrats just as soon as they stop holding the government hostage to their partisan demands. As I said, we've actually offered to guarantee them a vote on the Obamacare issue that they are raising. The Democrats continue to dig in. They say we have to agree to their demands before they'll agree to pay our troops, before federal workers can have certainty about putting food on the table and paying their bills, before needy families can be sure that nutrition assistance will be there for them. They say all of this has to wait until after we fix a problem Democrats created. Because let's be clear, Mr. President, the Obamacare cliff that Democrats are so worked up about is the result of their own choices. Democrats wrote Obamacare. They passed Obamacare without a single Republican vote. They created the Obamacare COVID credits without a single Republican vote. And they extended the COVID credits, and then they chose the expiration date without a single Republican vote. That's right, Mr. President. They chose the expiration date. And then they chose not to address that expiration date when they had the majority here in the Senate for the last 4 years. But now they want you to believe that this is somehow a Republican health care crisis? Give me a break. Give me a break. Mr. President, if Democrats truly want a discussion on how to fix the health care mess they created, then they should be voting to reopen the government. And we have a bill right there at the desk that will do just that. It's clean. It's nonpartisan. It has no Republican policies. It has no partisan policy riders. It just extends current funding levels for a few short weeks until we get an opportunity to finish the rest of the appropriations process. And right now, Mr. President, we are just 5 Democrat votes away from passing that here in the Senate and sending it to the White House for President Trump to sign. And if just a handful of Democrats would step forward, we could reopen the government literally in a matter of hours. Today. As I said, Mr. President, from the very beginning of the shutdown, I've made it clear that if Democrats reopen the government, we can immediately sit down and talk about the Obamacare cliff that they've created. Instead, Democrats have wasted now 1, 2, 3 weeks, and we could have been having those discussions. And while the American people have suffered, Democrats have been courting praise from the far left. They spent their time looking to be praised for fighting against President Trump when they could have been working with him and with Republicans on solving a problem that they claim to be concerned about. Mr. President, I'll say it again. Republicans are ready to go to work. We've been ready. We're just waiting for Democrats to take yes for an answer.
But Thune counters and says Republicans are ready to work. Democrats just need to say yes. The pain piles up. Delayed flights, shuttered parks, veterans' claims buried. Families stare at empty fridges while stomachs growl, wondering if the government's IOUs will ever cash. Meanwhile, where the fuck is AOC? The self-styled progressive queen itching to be the Democrats' de facto leader? She's gone, erased. From the shutdown saga, her dreams of steering the party alongside her aging ally Bernie Sanders are dust. Bernie's off in Maine, propping up Graham Plattner, and oyster farming Marine bet locked in a vicious Democratic primary against Governor Janet Mills, and Schumer's backing Mills to take on Senator Susan Collins, calling her the best candidate to retire the Republicans. Oh, and the GOP has picked up another seat, folks.
Thanks. Right now, state lawmakers are moving forward with redrawing North Carolina's maps. The Senate Elections Committee advancing the plan on Monday.
It's part of the president's effort to retain Republican control of Congress after next year's midterm election. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane shows us how likely it is for things to shift in Republicans' favor.
Yeah, good afternoon. This plan would help Republicans who have a very thin majority in the U.S. House, to actually gain more seats, something that is going on around the country and now here in the Tar Heel State.
People that I worked with when I was in the House were in districts like mine. They were incentivized to work together to solve problems. And we're seeing much less of that now.
North Carolina Republican-led legislature is pushing a sweeping new redistricting plan, one designed to expand GOP control in Washington. Under the proposal, lawmakers would redraw the state's most competitive congressional district. That's the Northeastern 1st, now represented by Democrat Don Davis. The new map shifts county lines to make that seat more reliably Republican. Now, if passed, the plan could change North Carolina's congressional delegation from 10 Republicans and 4 Democrats to 11 Republicans and just 3 Democrats. Republican leadership says the move is crucial to support President Donald Trump's agenda and to protect the party's slim House majority heading into 2026. But opponents, including Democrats and voting rights groups, call it partisan gerrymandering that could dilute black voter power and weaken fair representation. Concerns also shared by the governor.
I'm extremely disappointed by this cynical power grab. Understand that the Republican legislature is abusing its power to take away yours.
But it's also important to note that Governor Stein can't do anything about this. He does not have veto power on this particular move, so the next step is probably in courtrooms. We're right here at the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections. This is Richard Devane. We'll send it back to you.
Plattner's campaign is a mess. Apologies for old offensive posts, a drunken tattoo resembling a strange symbol, a unique symbol. But he's got Sanders in his corner, railing against the establishment, and Plattner's team scoffs at Schumer. This is the establishment backing the establishment, and Graham's going to win because he has Mainers behind him. It's a bloody proxy war, but it's a sideshow. AOC and Bernie are nowhere near the shutdown spotlight anymore after that disastrous town hall.
What does that need to look like before you would vote to reopen the government? Or is it commitment from the White House and Republicans enough?
No doubt.
I mean,
Mr. President, is a very honest man. And if he says something, man, you could take it to the bank.
So you're saying his word is not enough?
Bankruptcy court.
His word? No.
So what do you need to see? What commitments from
I think we need to see ink on paper. I think we need to see legislation. I think we need to see votes. And I think we need to see these things pass on the floor of the House and the Senate and signed by President Trump. I don't accept IOUs. I don't accept pinky promises. That's not the business that I'm in.
Okay, so you need a signature from President Trump in order to vote to reopen the government.
Correct.
Okay, Senator Sanders, we've got another question. This one's for you.
and their influence, if ever any, zapped. Schumer is the sole target here, folks. President Trump, John Thune, and Caitlin Collins' CNN segments all point at him night after night, day after day. And here's the kicker. The shutdown ends like it always does. Schumer's been here before. Over a dozen clean continuing resolutions, CRs in the past. No negotiation, just a grudging nod. He'll blink, sign a clean CR, and then government will flicker back to life. No grand deal, no Obamacare win, just surrender, dressed up as bipartisanship. But this time, the cracks in his armor are fatal. The Democratic base is restless. Whispers of leadership challenges are growing louder. The main primary mess is a warning shot. Progressives like Plattner, backed by Sanders, smell blood. AOC shadow looms, ready to pounce in 2028. And Schumer's days as the Democrats' linchpin are numbered. His career, once towering, is crumbling before his very eyes, a political titan undone by his own stubborn pride and greed. This is the real Washington. Folks, the unvarnished truth. Schumer's shutdown isn't just hurting workers, it's exposing a party fracturing under his watch. Federal families bear the scars, but the end game is clear. Chuck is finished. The government will reopen, but his era won't survive the primary wars ahead. And you heard it here first. Spread the word. And spread the word about our video sponsor, Chapter. As the Schumer shutdown drags on, threatening the very programs millions rely on, there's never been a more critical time to secure your future. President Trump warned just this week, Social Security and Medicare are at risk if Democrats don't back down, with one Dem even whispering death at the thought of funding cuts. These programs aren't just numbers, they're lifelines for 53 million Americans, especially seniors and retirees, providing monthly benefits and health coverage in a world where medical debt drives 2/3 of U.S. bankruptcies. That's where Chapter comes in, offering unbiased, amazing guidance to navigate Medicare's maze during open enrollment, unmatched service. Now, through December 7, 2025, whether you're turning 65 or reassessing your plan, Chapter's advisors help you choose between Original Medicare or Medicare Advantage, ensuring your doctors, prescriptions, and budget are covered. Are you worried? And just like so many of you have already told me and shared how you're worried about shrinking Advantage plan benefits and coverages, Chapter's got you, folks. Confirm your coverage before it's gone. How many of you are concerned about the 6.3% rise in physicians exiting Medicare in rural and underserved areas? As MedPage Today has already reported, Chapter connects you to plans with strong networks no matter where you live. And with fewer Part D plans for 2026 and rising out-of-pocket caps, now $2,100 under the Inflation Reduction Act, thanks Joe Biden, Chapter's free, unbiased, agenda-free advice helps you compare costs, check formularies, and avoid traps like brokers pushing commission-driven plans, and they do it in under 20 minutes. Call 270-467-2426 today to speak with a Chapter advisor. Don't let glossy mailers or shutdown chaos steer you wrong. Chapter ensures your Medicare plan fits your life because in these uncertain times, the right choice is your protection. Again, that number is 270-467-2426. Give them a call. Tell them Kevin sent you. Lock in your peace of mind, and I bet you'll be glad that you did.